Tonight, more of my interview about energy with the chairman of the National Governors Association, the governor of Pennsylvania, Ed Rendell. I interviewed the governor at a Gamesa wind turbine factory in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Surrounded by wind power components, I asked the governor about the role of some less popular energy sources: oil, nuclear, and coal. The U.S. is rich in coal resources, but have we figured out how to burn clean coal?
Not yet, because we have to find a way to successfully sequester or dissipate carbon. No matter how you produce coal, traditional burning produces a ton of carbon. The coal gasification produces less carbon, but it still produces significant carbon. We've got to find a way to either dissipate the carbon during the process very hard, or take the carbon, store it, and sequester it. America has enough coal reserves to power every home in America, every factory in America for the next 200 years, if we can find a way to use it. If I were president, I'd have every scientist, MIT, Carnegie Mellon, you name it, working on finding a way to successfully sequester coal.
Let's talk about nuclear energy, because Pennsylvania certainly has been able to reap the benefits of nuclear energy over the years. It's also the state that has seen really when nuclear goes bad with 3 Mile Island so many years ago. So it really understands the risks and the rewards. What role does nuclear play? Do we need to step up our nuclear energy dependence?
Yeah, I think we do. And my position is somewhat similar to Senator Obama's. He says nuclear has to be a part of a full energy portfolio going forward. It doesn't produce any carbon, it's clean, and that's a good part. The bad part is, number one, there can be an accident. And we saw it here in 3 Mile Island, but it's the only accident in the US. France gets 70% of its energy from nuclear. They've never had an accident. So can the fact that there's 1 or 2 accidents, as bad as potentially they are, deter us? And the answer is no. Coal miners unfortunately die, and we're trying to make it safer. That doesn't stop us from mining coal. But the big problem for expanding the amount of nuclear in this country is what to do about the nuclear waste. Right now, it's very dangerous, because on every nuclear facility, they store their own nuclear waste. If a terrorist wanted to get at that nuclear waste and explode it, we could have real problems.
Is there a role for offshore drilling as a stopgap?
Do you know, and I guess you do, but I wonder how many of our listeners know that the oil and gas companies have 68 million acres, offshore and onshore, of leased land that they leased that they haven't drilled on yet? Why don't they drill on those lands? If that doesn't yield enough oil and gas, then let's do some very judicious offshore drilling. But let's do it in places that make sense. California has a tremendous economy based on its beaches. Do you want to risk wrecking that economy? That economy is enormously strong. You know, there's drilling in Alaska that's already leased. Why do we want to, if we don't have to, ruin Anwar, which is one of the most beautiful places on earth? By the way, the oil companies never give us a straight answer. They never give us a straight answer. Why don't they drill on the 68 million acres first? Let's get a straight answer on that. By the way, you know, the oil companies say to us, well, we're making all these profits, but it's not really us, it's the price of oil in Saudi Arabia. Well, that's a bunch of bull, because they pass the price of oil on to us, right? That's why gas has gone from $2 a gallon to $4 a gallon. If all they were doing was passing that price on to us, their profits would stay the same. Well, how come ExxonMobil has made the greatest profits in corporate U.S. history the last 3 years in a row? Don't they owe us an explanation?
And again, the other side of that is that they say, well, their shareholders get to participate in those profits. But I would say, as somebody who watches this, Exxon stock is actually down this year, so even their shareholders aren't participating in this.
It seems to be doing no good except to the grossly overpaid executives. By the way, do you know in the energy bill, you know who gets tax breaks? The oil companies. Exxon made, what, $40 billion last year?
Where people get lost in this is then that there's talk, and Senator Obama has brought it up, the windfall profit tax. Instead of going that route, because it's basically a disincentive for any company to make profits, and we want American companies to make profits. I mean, that should be something we want to see happen. getting rid of tax incentives is one thing, but windfall taxes, quite another.
Well, windfall taxes is a way to make sure they're not gouging us. I will tell you, and I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm not a dumb guy either. It is apparent to me that there's gouging going on. Someone is gouging people who buy gasoline, and not just America, France, you name it. They're gouging us because they're making these incredible profits in the last 3 or 4 years. Why? Why all of a sudden are they making these incredible profits? Because they're taking advantage of an opportunity.